Chili here with Sirius Taurus Moon. This is Venus hour, and the moon is separating from Ketu. Moon 13 degrees Virgo, Venus with Mars and the Sun, 17 degrees Capricorn, ruled by Saturn at the end of Pisces. And what I have to say is going to be more of an energy reading. And this takes into account both what I said previously about the challenges of the Capricorn placements in Aries times and the square between Aries and Saturn, which basically means we're moving from traditional notions of authority, whether as father figure or any type of authority, to ad hoc authority. Now, the last degrees of Pisces are containing two lunar nakshatras. And one of them, where Saturn is finalizing its move, has to do with they can't get away with, which is the video that I did. What we have to remember about Aries? Aries is the place of exaltation of the sun, because Aries is the I am, and the sun is the heart. The sun is also the intellect. Is the ability to assert oneself or to act in alignment with one's heart. Unlike Mars in Leo, which is not weak but can be caught up in ego trips and pride, the sun in Aries is aligning the sign of action with action coming from the heart, and that together aligned is the I am. Now, a little bit of Rudolf Steiner, a little bit of anthroposophy. I'm not an expert in Rudolf Steiner. Two women that had great lectures on Rudolf Steiner are Gigi Young and Lada Dumcheva. And again, in the spirit of shedding the light and exposing and things being in the light, Age of Air, things can no longer be hidden. Aries is a sign of courage. Now, taken from Rudolf Steiner, there was a discussion about Lucifer and Ahriman, with Lucifer supposedly representing the lower chakras. Of course, when we take ritual abuse into account, neither is correct. Okay, and Rudolf Steiner was not exempt from growing in that kind of atmosphere. But if Lucifer represents the gnosis of the lower chakras, the essence of desire, again, without, how should I say that? Without having aligned, nourished environment, there is no gnosis. Okay, which is what I'm talking about. It's the fact that they use the ritual abuse to invert pain and pleasure on purpose, so that people would think that their Luciferian insight, that their essence of desire is predatory. But as per anthroposophy, the lower chakras are Luciferian, associated with Venus and Mercury. The higher chakras can be considered, and it's not exactly correct, but more associated with Ahriman. Again, it's not really, because Ahriman has to do with technology. And again, it's when we have the inversion of the pain and pleasure to torture and the buried alive rituals, that creates the Ahrimanic, as the telepathy would be inverted even. And yet the approximation of Rudolf Steiner was um, slaying sacred cows. I know, but this is the spirit of the time. It's the no nonsense type of spirituality. We access the what is true. What were the missing things? When people didn't talk about ritual abuse, they would see that guru and this and this anthroposophy and so on and so forth, and they would see the things as is. When we understand the components that we understand today, it's another layer that we haven't discussed before, because the lower chakra are not this disembodied place. That's only with trauma. Now, it's only in rape society, rape-based society. Okay, it's not sexuality-based society. The fact that they turned everything tantric into rape and molestation and abuse doesn't mean that that's what the gnosis of the union of masculine and feminine energy is. Okay, which is in praxis. If people would go to yoga classes in the elite sectors, they would see approximations. They would not see the actual truth. And then there can be an ideation of a sexually avoidant type of practices, whether it's yoga practices or whether it's spiritual practices. That supposedly transcend sexuality. You can't transcend something that you don't embody. And embodying the approximations is basically not the full embodiment, which I doubt we even have widespread on Earth. Okay, I'm not saying we don't have, because naturally I'm also a person who's dealing with things and recovering from things, and to the level of my perception are the things that I run into, and of course there are probably people that are way more advanced in embodiment. And advanced, it's not that they are gurus or higher ranked, it's just that they live their life busy making love, like, probably somewhere. And when I get into the frequency that is transmitted and aligning with that, then will probably be easier for me to dissolve a lot of the things that I'm tending to and talking about. Now, the union, the Ahriman and the Lucifer are supposed to unify into Christ consciousness, which is the heart. The heart is associated with the sun, and the sun exalts in Aries. Um, this is why, because of what I just mentioned before, this is why for certain people, even supposedly turning, no, not supposedly turning to Christ, but doing everything they know of how to turn to Christ, didn't save their children from being targeted, um, basically targeted to those rituals, or their children in their kindergarten catching things that were from targeting to those rituals. Um, and the energy reading that I do receive about that is that the burning off of karma, which relates to the last degree of Pisces, and the entire context of the last chance for the Capricorn placements to deal with outdated versions of the father or the authority figure or the patriarch, or for ladies that are the matriarch, that can also pertain to that, is that this burning off of karma It can give us spiritual connection. And what do I mean by burning off of karma? It basically means that the people, let's say they have the sun on this nakshatra, these are people that are going to be. I saw a video by M. Spiracy about the silver dragon. Okay, I'm not saying that this nakshatra is associated necessarily with the silver dragon, but I can relate definitely on the things that are about speaking the truth, being unable to not say the truth. When it comes to and being aligned with the heart. Now, if I comprise the sun exalting Aries and Saturn going through the last degrees of, and something that definitely came very strong in energy, which was that archetype would be activated, particularly where it's impossible. Let's say if there are children that have the sun in this nakshatra, okay, or somebody's supposed to have an infant, even if it's in the community or in the country or around, and the people that talk might not even know. So what we're going to see now, Falcon, I don't know who that resonates with. Okay, really. So what we're gonna see is that somebody with placements in this nakshatra is going to burn off of the Maya, burn off of the illusion, tell the truth, even if it seems like the craziest thing to do. And this is because somebody born with placement, sun, moon, ascendant in this nakshatra um, cannot either be born into or grow and mature in the world as the people, even the parents, see it before that burning off of karma. Let's say I was born with ascendant in this nakshatra. Um, and prior to my birth, there was insistence on natural birth, not natural birth in the sense not IVF and cloning or adoption, and insistence that there's gonna be from with love. Um, and that was fierce insistence, burning off of illusion, not being PC, not being this, not being that. Even I, as a child, did not understand why all those insistences. Now, when I learn about cloning and that Aries planet of the elite is going through my 7th and 4th, used to do with housing, used to do with partners and allies and enemies. Oh, I understand. And it requires me, the ascendant, to to tell the truth anyway. Now, for some children, that means that this alignment with the heart cannot allow certain illusions to exist. particularly whether it's about the old notion of hard work. If hard work is not yielding, the notion that the knowledge about the sacrifice of the first child. Somebody would come up in the society, would make an entire revolution exposing all of these practices. The child buried alive, with the child buried dead, and so on and so forth. It's like somebody's, and that would hopefully prevent that child from being targeted and sacrificed. And that would be visible because somebody would be sensing if something's there is off. This heart alignment doesn't have tolerance for something that's not true. It will go into the depth of the deep because this is Pisces. If it is even a little bit superficial, immediately it will have almost this karmic correction. And M-Spiracy treated that as the silver dragon archetype, as those are not people that are here, this particular placement, okay? They're not here to make a new wave or a new movement, or it's not about that. It's about, hey, that's the way things are. That's the truth. That's, you know, and everything that was believed that was false falls apart. Everything that was based on a Maya, on an illusion, falls apart. For example, I had a friend during the Me Too, they litigated the university and so on and so forth and whatnot. And I was like, well, what about, what about the cult that's behind that, that's not just local, and the other ideas that that cult has. That person had a father, deceased father, that was rubbing shoulders with Yitzhak Rabin, and we all know what that means. They went Marcel Marceau on me. They had to pretend they were fearing for their lives. I have ascended in this nakshatra. They faced the fire. It was a delay, but they had to face the fire of when they try to come to me. Why don't you litigate? Why don't you this? Well, what about the juristic system? Why are those things done? And people hate that because it is really challenging. It's not the person to collapse the system by taking an action that does this. No, they just have to tell you they are intolerant of what's not true. And A lot of people that had to speak up or that spoke up even though that could have killed them, they may have placements in this nakshatra. Or people that glitched. It's true. They were a glitch in the matrix. It was against their best interest to say that, and they said that. Netherlands 1800 chart has almost a stellium there, which means what's not true. Yeah, I can open the chart. I have it in the screenshots. Um, it's not a document. It's gonna be probably with this one. And we're gonna need to use the screenshots collections. Screenshots. So Pisces, they have Sun. Wow. Sun, Mercury, Pluto, and Apollon. I think it's Apollon. Sun, Mercury, Pluto. What it means for Netherlands is that they can't get away with anything. It's interesting because the country is under litigation. Jupiter, Libra. The Joris or the Jura. The odd scales turns even. It's also the decan where the odd scales. No, it's the first decan. It's next to Zendaya. Ooh. Netherlands can't get away with juristically harloting itself. It means now, here is the thing. Sun is there every year. Mercury there every year. Pluto takes a 248-year cycle. So we're probably going to see that towards the 2060s. Now, and by the way, Dutch people are known for saying the truth even though it's difficult. They're almost considered neurodivergent because they're so honest. But this is not a placement that can be silenced. Although with Pluto there can be attempts to, and the that let's just say I wouldn't. How should I say that? I really hope that they don't even try to, because that's not the type of backfire that I would want to even. It's um, now. Why is this thing coming up right now? Probably because of Saturn. And Saturn brings to the surface the type of truth that is coming out right now, is truth that is so impossible to speak that it's hardly any chance that somebody without placements in this nakshatra speaks it. Okay? Um, and this is because what's not aligned with the heart is highly unlikely to sustain. And that means a love that is actually loving. What is Nederland most notoriously known for? The lover boy scams. Now, here is the thing. Um, it's definitely a sign of telling the truth, but it's also such deep truth that things unveil as the world proceeds. And there is a lot of spiritual connotations. For example, Uranus at 27 degrees Taurus is sextiling this Saturn. What was, and it's adjacent to Beta Persei. So that can be a situation of, oh, that was a third party. Wait a second, why was this person susceptible to being love bombed? Because they had a childhood trauma that was missing. That corresponded with the person that was supposed to set them up and set themselves up. But that had a caveat, because now somebody is supposed to be born with placement in this nakshatra, and that person was so-called, okay, of whichever name, has the right spiritual knowledge that is vital to the sustaining of the newborn. Zero rape, zero slavery, zero trafficking, zero ritual abuse society. None of the 401k is going to. And this something comes up a lot because this placement, any placement, whether it's sun, moon, ascendant, is challenging the notion of any authority, not because it's rebellious. Okay, for example, Uranus, Saturn, Uranus 10th house, even Uranus Sun can be rebelling tradition, rebelling the father. Here is something different. It's not particularly rebellious. It's just not tolerant for something that is not true. In any archaic notions of leadership, parenthood, fatherhood, authority, that this placement wouldn't sustain in are going to be vehemently exposed by the native, because and then things collapse. If this child, for example, has a father who is a trafficker, or even a person was born into cloning family and so on and so on, the son will speak. I won't say no names. It's also not the sign to lie about things. Okay, it's not the sign to keep something a secret. It is not going to be misleading about that either. So you're trying to have a secret affair with a whistleblower. I really hope you don't. Wait a second, you want to be intimate with me? You may or may not have been affiliated with some trafficking ring. Like, how do you imagine the setting? Okay, we're getting intimate, tantric, whatnot. Otherwise, you better don't. Doesn't bring the water. And you're gonna see your energy. Your childhood memories, the things you've been involved with, your traumas, your... They're gonna surface with that Kundalini rise. You better not try to traffic me, because that would mean that somebody would torture me so that they would assassinate you or get me to assassinate you. I hope you don't think I can commit to something that's not the real thing, which means the economy needs to change, the way the world sees medicine needs to change in favor of patient sovereignty. Any structure in society needs to change. That's the type of truths that everybody either swipes under the rug. Oh, why won't you say this? Therapists, they're certified. They're how many children they had to rape and murder to get certification and have a job. And how does that affect their praxis? This is why a lot of people have really difficult time with those placements. And people that are having newborns with placements, or about to have newborns with placements in this late degrees of Pisces, okay, middle to late degrees of Pisces, they're gonna see it. They're gonna see those truths burning around them in a way that they won't be able to ignore anymore. And here's the thing: because it's Pisces, it's so mysterious that, let's say a person does the usual thing, okay, work harder to save for the child, or look at the list of nutrients to, okay, and they're gonna have this bird, well, it's gonna be wartime, I'm gonna confiscate entire 401ks. Gonna make a deal with this, a deal with that. It's a treason called treason. Treason. So what are you suggesting? Make sure you can operate on a zero rape, zero slavery mode persistently and consistently. That way you can be smuggled. That way you can be trusted. Most of the mantras that we speak were invented by people that had to bury one child alive, one child dead, or clones of the dead, and so on and so forth. It doesn't mean that saying those mantras cannot bring eurekas and gnosis and so on. It's not what I say about this. Praxis. Praxis, as treason cult, has nothing to offer. They are they are they need to commit treason. They need to sacrifice people over nothing. That's their modus operandi. That's the raison d'etat. With people with placements like that, I wouldn't be surprised if they often arise just in families where there are secrets. And regardless of the type of the secret, it can be a good secret. It doesn't have to be a bad secret. But something will happen, and it's just when somebody thought that this is something that they would take with them to the grave. So placements like this can arise at certain times. Uh, and at certain lineages. Okay? If you see a person with placement like that in your life, and you know you've been keeping a secret, or you've been acting up, or you've been this, or you've been that, you gotta ask yourself, where is Pisces in your chart? Now, also the people that have placements there, they are the ones that they can't get away with anything, in the sense that if they are carrying a certain illusion, then that illusion wears out. And then they're the one talking about it. And people say, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up about this. You don't know what we do to the people that speak. Da, 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 da. Okay. They can't shut up about it. They can't live in a society where that is not said. Or where the society fabric is like that. But you need to shut up. Okay, but what are they going to do? If you shut up, it'll be okay. But it's not okay. Not now. Recording. Now, either if something is done wrong to people with displacements, or if they themselves do something wrong with displacements, then that would not be something that they get away with. Um, and yet, those who think that, let's say, Saturn is sign of debt, those who think that let's say if this is a sign that gets due diligence, it means that those that ask for the due diligence have to do their due diligence themselves in the face of this placement. Where are the documents for the business? Oh, in the apartment I skipped from. Why? Because of MK Ultra human trafficking. Could you retweet it? I know I can't go there. Classified projects, due diligence. If this is where my taxes are supposed to go to know that I made any money that would be taxable, but that would also explain why I couldn't make any money. But displacement can also correct itself, which means that, let's say somebody did harm to displacement, they get a chance to correct themselves. They can't get away with it, but they get a chance to correct themselves, okay? It's not a superficial type of thing. It is Pisces. Um, so we get the overall energy reading. Anything that is not true, that's keeping people from being aligned with their heart, is being burned off. And this is a sign that can make people really angry. This is a placement, okay, that can make people really angry. Because it brings in the implications of something. It speaks the truth, and the truth in itself is an implication.